Hello, in this video, I'll take you through our procurement template. Now this template is powered with Microsoft Excel, so you need to have Excel pre-installed on your computer, preferably a version from 2013. Now once you open up the document, you arrive at the dashboard. That's what you currently see on the screen, and this holds three buttons to navigate to the three major sections of the template. We have the supplier section where you add all of your supplier information, the procurement section where you create new procurements, and the vendor summary, which is a report that shows you your purchase history. Now in this video, I'm going to go through all the sections. I'm going to start with the first section, and to open it up, you simply click. So notice as I click on the button, it takes me to the supplier section of the template. So now we're in the supplier information section. Now all sections in this template have a similar formatting. In the upper left-hand corner, we have the section title, which tells the user at any point in time the section you're on. So notice it says supplier information, so you know this is where you list all your supplier data, pretty much serving as a supplier database. To the right of this, we have four buttons: to add a new supplier, to delete an existing supplier, to edit the drop-down list in this section, and to sort your suppliers in ascending order. Above this, we have the navigation pane, and this has several labels to navigate to a particular section of the template. Notice as I click on the dashboard label, it opens up the dashboard section where we initially started. Recall I then clicked on supplier. So each label represents a button to navigate to a particular section of the template. And below the four buttons here, we have our data table where all supplier information will be listed. Now at the top, you notice we have column headers. These are attributes you're expected to supply for each supplier. So to add a new supplier, you click on the new supplier button at the top, and this pops up an Excel form. Now Excel forms provide an easier way to store data to this table. So you notice the column headers I referenced earlier are equally listed on the form as labels. The user simply has to supply values to the white portion of the form. The first attribute you're expected to supply is the supplier's name. So let's assume this is our first supplier, and he supplies us with Dell computers and accessories. Now once you're done entering the supplier name, to move to the next field, which is the product and service type, you can either click on the white portion with your form, with your mouse, so you can either click with your mouse, or you can make use of the tab key or your keyboard. So the tab key will move you to the next field for data entry. Now the product and service type, this is a drop-down list, and it has three default options. So we have furniture, computers, and electrical equipment. Now later on, I'll show you how you can add additional categories using the edit list section at the top here. So you can either add additional categories, remove existing categories, or modify any of the three values here. So I'm going to select the second option, move to the next field, and I'm going to enter the point of contact, the office address, phone number, email address, and any other details pertaining to the supplier. So I can enter things like maybe 2 weeks delivery. So let's say they take 2 weeks for anything I order and they require upfront payments. So I can just enter any additional details pertaining to this supplier. Now once I'm done supplying all the values, I simply click on the enter button and it stores that supplier to my database. So now you notice that the first row is listed with the data we just supplied. And if I scroll to the right so we can see the additional columns, so we see other information and then the outstanding column. Now the outstanding balance column is a formula generated field. So Excel will automatically calculate the total outstanding, if any, that you owe this supplier. So at any point in time at a glance, you can know the total outstanding using information from the procurement section. So that's a summary of how you add suppliers. I'm just going to demonstrate that again. You click on new suppliers, it pops up a form, you enter the supplier's name. You move to the next field, you enter the product type. Here you can start typing. So if I type F, it will autofill with the first category with F, the point of contact, the address. Now the address, point of contact, email, other details are all optional fields. The only two mandatory fields are the supplier name and the phone number. So notice if I don't supply any value and I click enter, it's going to pop up a red alert here. So you need to supply a supplier's name and the phone number. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the phone number, and I'm going to leave all the other fields blank. So once I supply it, I click on enter, and it stores that supplier to my database. So now we have two suppliers. So if peradventure you make a mistake, so notice I entered this number wrongly, you can double click on the cell and modify it. So the cells are editable. So that way you don't have to delete the entire entry. You can double click, modify or update it, and then click away. So now we successfully added 2 suppliers. The first row represents the first supplier's information, Mike Random, and the second row represents Anderson's Furniture's information. So that's how you add suppliers to your database. The next functionality is to delete a supplier. So to delete any supplier, you simply need to click on any cell in that row. So recall I said each row represents a supplier. So the first row, the first supplier. Second row, second supplier. And each row is made up of multiple cells. So we have the supplier's name cell, the category type cell, the point of contact, phone number, and so on. And as I click, you notice there's a border around the cell that I'm on. So to delete any supplier, you simply need to click on any cell in that row, click on delete. The template is going to ask, are you sure you want to delete this supplier? It's equally going to tell you the supplier's name. If you do, you click yes. If you don't, you click no. So that's how you add new suppliers and delete existing suppliers. Thirdly, this is the section you use whenever you want to modify the content of the drop-down list here. So once you click, it opens up a section, and these are the 3 default values. So notice at the bottom, I can add a new category, for instance, office supplies. So now we have 4 categories. So if I go back to our suppliers, click the new supplier, we should see the new option at the bottom, office supplies. So that's how you add additional categories and modify existing categories. You simply make use of the third button, which takes you to the edit list section. And the last button here enables you sort this data in ascending order. Now later on, when you want to select suppliers in the procurement section, it's going to be listed as it is here. So you notice we have Mike first, we have Anderson, because this is the manner in which we enter the information. But it makes it easier if all your suppliers are in ascending order. So that way A comes, then B, C, so you know the chronological order. Now to do that, all you need to do is to click on this button. Once you do, the template will automatically sort it in ascending order. So the A now comes first, then the M. So even if you have 100 contacts, if you press this, it will automatically sort it all in ascending order. So that will just make it easier when you have multiple contacts, to scroll across. So that covers the first section. So adding, deleting, editing, and sorting supplies. So we move on to the next section of the template, which is a procurement section where you create your procurements. To open it up, you simply click, and it takes you to the procurement section of the template. So you notice it has a similar formatting. At the top, we have the section title. You notice is where you document procurement information. We have 4 buttons to the right to add a new credit purchase, to pay a vendor, to create a purchase order, and to delete an existing procurement. Above this, we have the navigation pane, and below this, we have the data table where all procurement information will be listed. Now to add a new procurement, you simply click on the credit purchase button because all procurements are done on credit. So once you click, it pops up the form. Now this form works exactly like the form we just saw. The only difference is that it has more fields. So first of all, you indicate the date that you're making the procurement, and the date should be entered in this format: the date first, the months, and then the year. So you can either modify any of the content. I'm going to backdate. So let's assume the first procurement is on the 1st of May. So I've changed this to 01 indicating the 1st, 05 indicating May, 2018 indicating the year. To move to the next field, I simply press the tab key, and this will list all suppliers I have in my database. So now you notice the advantage of having it in ascending order, that's alphabetically, so that the A comes before the M. So if you have multiple contacts, you know it's going to be in ascending order. So here you simply click on the supplier, for instance, Anderson Furniture. You click on the tab key, you enter the order number. So depending on how your company does order numbers, maybe you precede it with the year, then the months. Really, this is subject to how you do your order numbers. Some are all in figures, however it is, you simply enter the order number. Next, you indicate you indicate the materials, the quantity, the unit price, and the total price. The template will automatically calculate the grand total at the top. So let's assume the first material is a wooden, medium table. Let's assume you're buying 2 units and each goes for $25,000. So you notice as I entered 2 and 25, the template will automatically calculate the total price of 50 and the grand total at the top. In the same way, let's assume we're buying office chairs. We're equally buying 2 and each goes for $15,000. Once I tab away, you notice it automatically calculates 30 as the total, multiplying the 2 together, and the grand total at the top is 80, which is 50 plus 30. So the form supports entering up to 10 items at a go. So notice we have 10 fields. I've entered 2, I'm going to just enter 1 more, and then the other fields are there. So let's assume another thing we want to buy from this particular. So we want small office tables. This time around we're buying 4, each go for 10,000, giving us a total of 40,000. Okay, so here we have the individual line total, and the grand total at the top. Now once you're done supplying all the values, you simply click on the enter key and the template will automatically store this procurement order. So it tells us it has been added. We should now see 3 rows, 1 row for each item. So they're all the same purchase date, the same order number, the same supplier, but different product names. So these are the 3 products, the respective prices, total prices, and they're all credit purchases. So that's how you add credit purchases. So if I scroll to the right, you notice we have one additional column, mode of payments, but this is used with the payment button. Okay, so this is how easy you add procurements. And now if we go back to our supplier section, we should see that we're owing this supplier the sum of the 3, which is 120,000, because we haven't made any payments, but we've added a procurement. So if I go back to my supplier section, we should see an outstanding, if I scroll to the right, of 120,000. So that's how all the sections are connected. So if I scroll so you can see that properly, you see 120,000. So going back to the procurement section, so that's pretty much how you add procurements. You click on credit purchase, you indicate the date. I'm going to make this the 5th. Here you indicate the supplier, the order number, depending on how the format of your order numbers, and then enter the material name. So the first material can be a laptop. Let's assume you're buying 10 for 1 for each employee and they go for $350 each. So the template will automatically calculate the total and the grand total. Next, let's assume that you're buying extensions. And you're equally buying 10, so each office is going to have 1. You're buying each for 5,000, and then it tells you the total. As I said, you can add up to 10 procurements. Once you're done, you click on enter. It will automatically store that. And we should see 2 additional rows, 1 for the laptop and the other for the extension cables. And so now if we go to the supplier section, we should be owing the second supplier 3.55 million. So if I go to my suppliers, you should see the outstanding balance there. That's it, 3,550,000 now. Okay, so it will automatically update the outstanding balance column. So that's how you add procurements. Now when you're ready to pay, you make use of the add payments button. So next we add payments. So to do that, you click on the add payments button and this pops up a form. So at the top, you enter the payment date. Now I'm going to change this to the 2nd. So let's assume we're paying Anderson the next day after we place the purchase order. Next, you indicate the supplier's name. So this is equally a drop-down list. So you can start typing, for instance, A. It will autofill with the first supplier that starts with A. Now, once you move away from this field, the template will automatically list the total amount you're owing that supplier. So that way, you don't have to quickly go here to glance. It will automatically calculate that for you. In the same way, if I select Mike and I tab, notice the balance updates. So that at any point in time, you can easily know the total amount you're owing a particular supplier when you're about to make payments. So let's assume we're going to pay 100,000 from this. So when we receive the delivery, we pay the balance of 20. So here we indicate the mode of payments, which can be cash. Once we're done, we click on enter and it tells us the payment has been added. So we should see another row indicating the dates, the supplier we paid, the amount we paid, telling us that the vendor payments and we paid in cash. So now we should be owing the supplier only 20,000 because the total of all we purchased is 120. We paid 100. So going to the supplier section, we should see a balance of just 20,000. So that's how all sections work together. Okay, so you can add procurements and then you can add payments. So in the same way, I'm going to add payments for the 2nd. That's Mike Dell Computers. This is going to be today's date. Once I type M, it will autofill. Once I tab, it will tell me the total amount I'm owing. Let's assume I can pay only $550 from this. There we go, 550,000, and now I'm paying through bank transfer. If I can type. There we go. So once I click on enter, it's going to store that payment. So now we have another row which lists that transaction. So now we should be owing Mike a total of 3 million naira. So going to the supplier section, notice it's now 3 million. Okay, so that's how you add or you create new procurements. Now the next is to create a purchase order. So after listing all these values here, you might want to create a purchase order for this transaction. So to do that, all you need to do is to click the purchase order button. So the first step, as I said, to create the purchase order is to select the order number in which you want to creates the purchase order for. So if I want for this Anderson's transaction on the 1st of May, I simply click on this field. Now, the first 3 items have the same order number, so I can either click on the first, second, third, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to use the first. Then once I click on the purchase order button, it will automatically create a purchase order for that order number. So you notice this is the sample. We have your logo at the top, we have your company address, the type of form, which is an order form, the invoice dates, and here's the order number that these items belong to. At the top, we equally have the supplier's name. So the template will automatically extract the phone, email, and residential address if you supplied it to the supplier section. But recall, we only supplied the phone number. That's why the other fields are blank. So quickly going back to the supplier section, you notice that for Anderson, the email and address fields are blank. I'm quickly going to add one just for demonstration purposes, and also an office address. Okay, so now I've added an email address and office address. So if I regenerate that purchase order, so I reselect the cell, click on purchase order, we should now see the email address and residential address listed. Okay, so the template will automatically extract the contact data from the supplier section using the supplier you specified. On the right hand side, we have the other fields as specified in the sample you gave, the order number, and the 3 line items. At the bottom, we have the subtotal, the invoice total, and the field for the operations manager to sign and the managing director, so the approve all section. Okay, so that's a summary of how the order or purchase order functionality works. The template will automatically generated using the order number sample you selected. So I'm going to do the same for Mike Dell computers. All I need to do is to select the new order number. So notice the field is selected, click on purchase order, and the template will automatically replace the values. So now you notice it's Mike Dell, the office in Abuja, so it has replaced the contact data. It has equally changed the invoice dates to the 5th, the order number, the 2 items being ordered, the subtotal, which is 4.1, the invoice total, and the signatories at the bottom. Okay, so you notice how fast it automatically creates that. Now the purchase order has been set in such a way that it prints on an A4 page. So the margins have been set on the left and right so it doesn't cut off. So you notice it fits on a page, and at the bottom we have page 1 of 1. Okay, so that's a sample of the purchase order that's going to be printed. It can be saved as a PDF and emailed to the supplier. Okay, so that's a summary of the purchase order functionality. And last, to delete any purchase, you simply click on, you need to be on that particular row. So you need to be on a cell in that row, click on delete. It's going to ask, are you sure you want to delete this? If you do yes, it's going to delete. No, it's not. Okay, so that's a summary of the procurement section. Let me quickly go over it again. The credit purchase, this is how you create a procurement. You enter the date, you select the supplier, enter the order number, and list all the items. The template will automatically calculate the grand total based on the total prices of each line item. Next, to add payment, you simply click on the button. You indicate the payment date. The moment you select the supplier, the template will automatically return the balance outstanding. You indicate the amount you're paying and the mode of payment. This is to create a purchase order. You simply need to click on the order number, click on purchase order, and it will automatically take you to the purchase order section and populate it with the items being ordered. And lastly, to delete, you click on a cell, you click on delete, and the confirmation message comes up. So that's a summary of the procurement section. Next, we move to the creditors report. Now to open it up, you simply click on the label. Now the creditors report, just lists all suppliers that you owe money. So if you have 50 suppliers in your supplier section, it's going to list the number of suppliers out of the 50 that you're currently owing money. So right now, we owe only 2 suppliers money, and we have only 2 suppliers. So if I click on this button, we should see only those 2 suppliers listed. So it takes a while to load because it's refreshing the report. But once the process is complete, there we go. At the top, it tells you the total number of creditors, which is 2, and it's going to list them with the outstanding amounts. Now this becomes useful when you have multiple suppliers because you're not always going to be owing all of your suppliers. So if you quickly want to get a summary of all the suppliers you owe and the outstanding total as at today, so this is automatically generated point in time as at today, it will tell you at the top the total number, which is 2, and at the bottom it's going to list the supplier's name with the respective amounts you owe each. So you know this is the total you owe all of your suppliers. So that's what the creditor section does. It just generates a report listing all your creditors. The next report is the Get Info report, and as the name says, this enables you quickly get information for a particular supplier. So later on, when you start using the template, so let me go to the procurement section, you have multiple procurements across multiple suppliers. So right now we have only 2 procurement orders for Anderson and for Mike. But later on, you can have up to 20, 30, 40, just multiple procurements across multiple suppliers. So you might quickly want to see all transactions you've made with a particular supplier. So to do that, you simply make use of the Get Info section. Now let me point out that the remaining sections I'm going to cover, they're all reports. So the creditor section, this was a report. Once you click, it will automatically refresh, listing all creditors. In the same way, the Get Info section is a report. So once you click, it will automatically refresh, extracting the most recent data. Here we go. Here's the report. So the report has 2 sections. At the top, it's going to list information, that's personal information with regards to the supplier, things like the contact person, the email, the phone, and so on. And at the bottom, it's going to list transaction details. So the actual items you purchased or the payments you've made to that vendor. Now, the first step is you need to select the supplier that you want to generate this report for. So once you click on this drop-down list here in front of supplier name, it's going to list all the suppliers in your database. So if you have 100 suppliers in the supplier section, it's going to list the 100 suppliers here. But the advantage of this report is that you can start typing the supplier's name. So if you can remember that there's the word Dell in the supplier's name because they supply Dell, once you type Dell, it will filter all the 50 and show only suppliers that have these 4 letters, DELL, together in their name. In the same way for furniture, once I start typing furniture, it will filter all the contacts and list only suppliers that have the word furniture in their name. Okay, so that makes it easier when you have to select through multiple suppliers. Now, once you select the supplier and click OK, it will automatically at the top list the contact information. So we know this person is into furnitures. This is the contact name, the email, the phone, and the outstanding balance. So this can be useful if you quickly want to place a phone call. You can quickly come in here, select the supplier, and it's going to list that information for you. And at the bottom, it's going to list all transactions. So the dates, if it's a credit or a payment, the order number, the item you purchased, unit price, and so on. So it's going to give you a brief summary with regards to the transaction. Now, you equally have the ability to filter by month or year. So right now, all our transaction is in May. So this, I might not be able to fully demonstrate this functionality, but later on, when you have transactions across multiple years, here you can be able to select the specific year you want to see and the specific month. So if I want to see only transactions in May 2018, I simply select May 2018, and it's going to filter that. I can do the same for April, June, and so on. So this way you can filter by a supplier, by year, and by month. Okay, so you quickly get a supplier summary. Now, the next section is the report section, and this just enables you view your procurements, but on a monthly basis. So it's possible you might just want to see all procurements you've made in a particular month and year. So you can simply click on report, it opens it up. And in the same way, it has to refresh first, so it might take a few seconds. But once it opens up, it works exactly the same way. At the top, you simply indicate the year you want to see the report for. Next, you indicate the month you want to see, and the template will automatically give you a summary. So it's going to tell you these are all the transactions that happened within this time frame. In the same way, if you want to see only credit, so you don't want to see the payments you've made, you simply click on credit purchase. So it knows this is the total credit purchase, 3.6 million, a bit over 3.6 million. So this is all the transactions in May 2018. If you want to see all payments you've made, you simply click on payments, and you know you've paid a total of 650,000. And as I said, you can filter this across months and across years. Okay? So I think we covered all the sections of the template. So if we go to our dashboard, we covered the supplier, the procurement, and the vendor summary. So the vendor summary just enables you to select the vendor, and you quickly see their contact data and the sales summary. So that's a summary of the procurement template.